Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Winterpeg Report. I am your host, Mark Adam. I am going to be joined by a very special guest today, Josephine Winter, author, creator, general all-around creative person, and we're going to get into that in just a minute. But first, I want to remind you can follow us on all the socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We're also on Twitch and TikTok. There's no content on the TikTok at this point. But do follow us because it's coming, I promise, every week. And it hasn't happened yet, but it's on my to-do list, I swear. So do all that. Follow us all of those places. You can also get in touch with us on the WPG Talk line. So the number to call there is 431. I know, ew, gross area code, right? 431-800-4555. You can call or text. You can leave a voicemail, which we can use on future episodes of the show. Or if you're calling, you can call about sports stuff. We'll put that on the LZ. There's basically just tell us what you're thinking. We're onto it. Email podcast@thewpg.ca. If you want to be a guest on the show or you think there's a better guest we should have on the show or you want to complain about that guest we had last week. I'm just kidding. Yeah, you can hit us up there. We also have a way for you to advertise. If you're looking to advertise on the show, you can. 431-489-2401 is the number to call, or you can email ads@thewpg.ca. With all that said, without further ado, let us introduce our guest, Josephine Winter. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you could be here, and we're going to talk about your books, and yes, that's with an S. I know she looks too young to have published multiple books, but she did. So why don't we get right into it, shall we? The first thing we want to talk about is this series that I met you for was K-11-7-4.
Yes.
Do you just say K1174?
Yes.
Yeah, much easier. The dashes are unnecessary. So that's exactly what you actually created that series. That is your own. So
absolutely 100% original. Yeah.
That's amazing. And you can find it on Amazon, the K1174 series. We're going to get more into that. I want to ask you questions about that, but first let's rewind. Let's do the prequel here. How did you get into writing in the first place?
Okay, well, originally I actually hated writing. Growing up in school, I never did great in English or art or anything like that. I don't know. So it just turned me off of it. It wasn't a fun thing for me. And then around 8th grade, I met a friend who was writing, and she was like, you should write too. And because you do things that your friends want to do so you can stay friends with them in that time of life, I decided to try it. And my first story was absolutely atrocious. It does not exist anymore. I definitely threw that one out. But the following year, I ended up meeting who is now my best friend. And she really encouraged me to write what I wanted to write and just have fun with it. And that's sort of when I really started getting into fantasy specifically. And from there, it just grew. And I started enjoying it and having fun. And I've always been more creative. My siblings and I, we grew up always using our imaginations, playing games, reenacting fairy tales, and just all around being creative. We didn't really have a lot of technology. Like, we didn't have any Nintendo or video games or that sort of thing. So we had to use our imagination to have fun. It was a lot of dress up and just making do with what we had available. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you mentioned you did a lot of pretend and playing around and imagination stuff. Do you play Dungeons and Dragons? Like I know you cosplay because I've seen you do it.
I have not, actually. I mean, I think I did like one time. My best friend, she was doing dungeon mastering for a group of friends of quite a while back. And I sat in on one meeting. And so I haven't really done it since. It's something that I would love to get into, but I kind of want to find a group of noobs like me so that we could kind of start together and learn together, and I wouldn't feel like a total moron for not
A
knowing
little,
anything.
a little less, what's the word? Intimidating.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you started as a fantasy writer, and
Yeah.
then sci-fi happened. What? Because the series K1174, I'm gonna let you explain it so that I don't provide any spoilers or any press that you don't want about it. But
Fair.
what what I would like to know is, and I think a solid question that people are going to ask is, how did you go from being like, I'm a fantasy person to publishing sci-fi? How did that transition occur?
Yeah. Well, it's important to note that K1174 is a fantasy sci-fi crossover, so it has a lot of fantasy elements in it. It just happens to take place in a more scientifically advanced world. But the worlds itself are created based on how I do fantasy. But the whole premise of the story came about because I was at work, and one of the guys working there was like, "Tell me a story about space trains," and then walked away. And I was like, I don't do sci-fi, so I don't know. And I just started thinking, and I got an idea, and it was something that I was like, this is a prequel to a much larger story. So when he asked me later on, where's my story? And I was like, you're going to have to wait a while because it's going to be a book. And it originally was one book. It's completely written as a standalone. And I thought, I could do more with this. How about I split it into 8 parts and make 8 individual novels? So that's what happens.
And now, of the 8, there's 3 currently available.
Yes.
FYI, you can go to her website, winterwrites.net, and the information is there about where to get those first three books. Do you want to give a super quick synopsis without any spoilers? Maybe, I don't know. Can you do that with the second and third book? Because would it spoil things from the first book, maybe?
Not so, maybe not so much. I think I can do it without spoiling it. But the whole thing is K1174 is growing up in a world where he is from a group of people called the Hyman, and they've been enslaved by a group of people called the Altera. And it's been just over 620 years since the last war took place that this all happened, and K1174 is now growing up as a slave, wanting freedom, and he tends to be a troublemaker. Not only just attracting trouble, but stirring it up, creating it. And so it's all of his misadventures, really, and how he is seen kind of as a hero because he just dives in to do things to protect people. But he himself just feels like he's a complete idiot. And he plays off of that as his strongest character trait, as he often says. And so, yeah, books 2 and 3 are part of the process of him trying to find an escape, trying to find a way to free his people, his Hyman people, and how they can work together to try and bring peace.
And see, I relate to the part where he said being an idiot is his strongest trait. Most days I feel very much the same. So, yeah, that kind of tracks for me, and that sort of hits home a little bit. So there's
It's a lot of fun.
There's 5 books that are left unpublished at this time in this series alone. So obviously the plan coming up is to finish that, get those
Absolutely.
8 books out, and then all of the encores that your fans are going to want.
Of course.
So, let's call it 15 books by the end. No, I'm kidding. I say that as a person who has zero idea how hard that is to do, how much work that is to do. There's a lot of things where I can explain to people just how hard it is to do the things I'm doing. That's not one of them. I don't relate on that level. How hard is it to go and basically go from nothing to ideas to published work? What is that process even like? Because you self-published as well, yes?
Yeah. So it's definitely a long process. For me, because every author you talk to will have a different process. Like we follow some similar things, but everyone has a way that they do it that's unique to them, that works for how they function. So for me, when I first started writing, I would just what we call just pantsing it. So I would just, fly by the seat of my pants and write off the top of my head, no plot, just no outline. It's just going.
That's how I live my life. Go ahead. I got you. Yeah.
And I found that I'm a type of person who loves all the background stuff. So every time I came up to a question or something that didn't quite fit, I was like, oh, I can go back and work on all the background information and dive into the world and do world building and that kind of stuff. And then I'd have all this new stuff and be like, oh, well, now I have to edit it into what I already wrote because now things are different. And so I would edit and I'd get a little bit further and there'd be a new problem and be like, oh, I can go back and world build again. And I got stuck in that cycle. So for me, I found that having a completed outline from beginning to end is what helps me actually get a project finished.
Right.
So my first draft, I write following my outline. I don't look back. I don't touch the chapters that I previously wrote. That can come in round 2. And so Once I have first round, then there's several rounds of editing, getting other people involved, asking them for help finding mistakes, because once you've read something 5,000 times, you don't catch anything off anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're far too close.
So then in crafting this whole thing, and it comes as no surprise to most people that a lot of authors use pen names. How did you choose yours? I don't want to out you and real name drop you. That's up to you. But how did you come up with? Because it's like a nice flowy name, right? Josephine Winter.
Well, I had written a book previously in 2015 under a different pen name, and it was honestly kind of a little bit juvenile, I think. So I wanted to rebrand a little bit. Josephine is actually my middle name. So that's what I went with for this pen name. And then Winter was kind of a nickname while I was living in Korea for a while. Because I'm from Canada, everyone just called me Winter because I didn't get cold in winter because it was nothing like winters here, especially in Winterpeg.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just kind of became Josephine Winter. I thought it flowed really nicely, and yeah, I liked it.
Can we jump back? You lived in Korea for a while. Like how did that happen?
Yeah, I lived there for almost 2 years. I was intending to take a year off and then spend a few months in Korea and then spend the rest of the year just kind of traveling around to different countries. But I ended up finding something that I really enjoyed while I was in Korea, and I stayed, ended up teaching English for a little bit, and then COVID hit and I came back home. But
oh, fair enough. Okay, so COVID is what drove you home.
Yeah,
that's so crazy that you just and you took a year off from writing, from life, from school, from life, just a full-on sabbatical.
I tend to get bored fairly easily when I'm in one place for too long. Now that I think I'm maturing a little bit, so it's not quite as bad these days. But I went through a time of life where I just got bored really easily, especially with living in Manitoba. And so I kept traveling and going and living other places. Like I lived in Japan for a little bit. I lived in BC for a little bit. And then I lived in Korea for a little bit. So, yeah.
And you say a little bit like again. It's like, you're like, oh, it's just a little bit. You were there for 2 years. It's like, you don't look old enough for that to be a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like you're not this 60-year-old lady who's like, I lived my life. And you're too young to say a little bit and mean years in a place. So when you say a little bit, you were
otherwise, but
yeah, well, I mean, there is a certain age your back just decides we don't care how old you are. You're just old now. I
Yeah.
get it. I hit that a decade ago. That's fine.
Well, with writing and doing art and everything hunched over, it kind of also plays a part.
And I'm going to show you. This is my world. This is where I live. And I know it's a mess, but like I spend all of my time staring at all these screens, and usually I have more screens, but it's just been a day. But I totally get that whole hunched kind of like da 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 da, sedimentary sitting at a keyboard kind of thing. It's a little rough. So
Yeah.
yeah. So when you say you lived in Japan for a little bit, how long was that?
The longest I was in Japan was for 3 months. So
Okay,
not
so
2 years.
see, and I would call that a little bit.
Yeah.
But I lived in Korea for a little bit. You lived there for 2 years. Like that's a significant chunk of time.
Yeah.
Right?
It didn't feel very long. It definitely didn't feel long enough, but
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. Would you go back?
I would like to go back and visit because I have lots of friends there now. But I don't know if I'd go back for a long term.
Fair
Just
enough.
because I've been there, done that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I
you're
wanna
just
try
like
the places.
check, right? Korea.
Yeah.
Check.
Been there. Yeah.
Done it. So you could probably take Japan off that list. I think British Columbia is off the list.
Yeah.
Winnipeg should have been off the list to begin with, but here you are.
Oh yeah. Yeah. A
And-
long time ago.
Yeah. But this is where we are. And so Josephine Winterpeg. See, this is the Winterpeg Report. And that's anyway.
Yeah. See, it worked out. It was meant to be.
It all flies. It all flies. So, do your title you gave yourself is author and creator. So, what do you do outside of writing that you love to do and create?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been working on a few things. So besides writing, I do enjoy art. I'm trying to draw more. Unfortunately, I have cousins who are amazing talent in artistry. Like one's a painter and one is amazing at like anime. And so I kind of have a standard that's like, oh man, I'm never gonna reach that. But I still try my best to delve into art and that kind of stuff too. So I want to eventually try digital art, trying to create different merchandise type products as well.
Can you see this? Why is that so dark? No, I can't get the screen to light up. Okay, so it's Link Sora,
Yeah.
right? So it's a business card. I promise. There's information on it. I don't know why it looks so black on the camera, but there is information on there. But this is who you were talking about that does the
that's
anime.
exactly what I'm talking about. Yes.
Right. And having the card in my hand, I can say that I met this individual. They had no interest in speaking to me, and I was really trying not to have, take that personal.
She's quite shy, but
She seemed it, yes. Yeah, that's just how it is. And you, unlike that individual, are not shy. And I was very lucky enough to speak to you at Winnipeg Comic Con, where not only did I speak to you, but you were dressed in the cosplay of the K1174 character, which I thought was very cool.
Yeah,
So-
I think that definitely played a part in me being able to meet people at Comic Con, because without the costume, I think I would have gone mostly unnoticed.
There was, listen, I went around and looked and tried to talk to as many people as possible, but that was why I was there. That was my purpose.
Yeah.
But dressing in cosplay gets a lot of people stopping, thinking like, what is this? And your cosplay, and I don't mean this as an insult, because your cosplay looked very cool, and I'm sure it was very accurate to your book, as you are the creator. But when I first saw it, not knowing your IP, I thought that it was something out of Mass Effect, actually.
Okay.
I thought you were one of the Mass Effect
Well, I had a
characters,
few
which I
people
thought
ask
was
me if
very
I was
cool.
Black Widow.
That's okay, fair enough. And thinking back, I totally get that. I don't have a photo of that. If you go back,
Yeah, like the costume probably wouldn't be 100% accurate because I don't really have the money to be able to afford a completely 100% accurate costume at this point in time in my life.
right,
But it was what I could whip together in like 2 weeks. So,
right. And I'm just sorry. I'm distracted because I'm trying to bring up the photo. If
if you can
because
find
you
it.
had, yeah, it's one of those. I have a photo of you in your cosplay from that day.
Yeah, you did take one.
And yeah, so anyway, continuing on. If I find it, I'll bring it up.
Absolutely.
I don't want to get us stuck on this, especially since a lot of people are listening to the audio podcast and going, "You arsehole." But I will, for the people listening, I will include on the WPG.ca when I post this to the site. I will include that photo as part of the bonus content there on that page, as we generally have like a little bonus content area for stuff we reference. I'll put links to her books where you can buy them, that kind of stuff. So that'll all go there. And for those that are listening to the audio podcast, and for those watching this, if I don't happen to find it here, then absolutely
it will still be available.
Yeah. And how did you find Comic-Con? Because there was just such a huge depth to the types of people that were there. How did you find it for what you were doing? Did you get a lot of engagement? Did you get less than you hoped? Did you get more than you thought? Where did you sort of land on that spectrum?
Yeah, it was my first time actually being a vendor at Comic-Con. Actually, my first time really doing Comic-Con at all. I had previously, many years ago, been to an Icon, but that's about as most as I've experienced in that world. So this was my first time really experiencing Comic-Con and being a vendor in it. For me, where we were situated, it kind of felt like people triangled around us, because across from us there was a snack shop. Next to us there was an artist, and the other side was an author who was a bit more well-known because she's been doing this for a lot longer. And so people kind of triangled around us. And for me and my cousin as well, it was a good thing we had costumes at our tables. That was kind of what helped draw people to us. So I didn't feel like I had done very well in the moment, but then after talking to some of the other vendors and getting kind of their feedback on how they thought it went in comparison to other Comic-Cons and what their first Comic-Cons were like as well, they said that we actually had done quite well. So that lifted my spirits. I felt pretty good about that. So
I'm going to hang on. I'm sorry. I did find it, so I'm bringing it up, and I will do that right. No, maybe that's not working. Oh my goodness. I'm having all the technical issues. I promise this will work. Hang on. Give me bam. There it is.
There it is.
So now you can see it, and it's the little blurb that was the paragraph I put in there for having met you in the much larger Comic-Con article, which you can go read at thewpg.ca. That you just search for the word Comic-Con. It's a big bright yellow picture will come up. That's the one you click. But then this young lady right here, dressed in her cosplay, showing off her really cool books, and you had other stuff on the table there as well. And I made sure to keep your super shy family member out of this.
She appreciates.
Yeah, super shy, which is totally fine. Goes against everything I believe in, but I agree. I just understand that those people exist in the world, and that's where we're at. So anyway, I thought that was very, very cool to meet you, and especially meet you in cosplay where you were. It helped me really connect to your IP a lot more.
Yeah.
And made you a lot more interesting, which is actually one of the reasons why I was like, I have to have this lady on my podcast. Interesting people in Winnipeg are the entire point of this podcast. And that if that doesn't fit the bill, then what are we even doing here?
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping to do a better costume at this next Comic-Con. So if you're going to be there.
Oh, I'll be there. 100%. But I really thought the idea of, you're mainly a fantasy person, and you said, Tolkien is a huge inspiration for you, and and then you write a story about space trains, and I just thought, what a crazy way that happened, and very neat. But it works, right?
Yeah, somehow it's working out for now. I really want to get back into the fantasy game though, so I have other projects that are kind of on the back burner right now, but I'm still working on them. So once this series is completed, then more high fantasy will be coming out.
Right.
For sure.
Right. Yeah. And the hi. Are you gonna? Never mind. That's not a question I want to ask on here. I sometimes this joke enters my head and I have to think, where am I? It's not a comedy club. Okay. My audience is, there could potentially be kids. Swearing, by the way, I don't care. I don't care about that. But yeah, there's certain subject matter possibly needs to be filtered through there, and that's what happened. That's why I don't know if you noticed on my face, but I had like a mini stroke.
Yeah, I saw there was like a block that came up, and it was like, oh wait, rewind.
Yeah,
okay.
Don't say the thing. But now everybody probably can put together where I was going with that. I'm sorry, and you're welcome simultaneously. So that said, let's just go back to what you do. So more drawing. Do you want to do that on more of a professional level? Is that sort of something you want to get to so you can bolster your already cool art?
Yet exactly what I want to do with it. I mainly am doing it for myself. Like I said, kind of briefly mentioned, I want to create more merch. So like at Comic-Con, I want to have my books there, but I also want to have other options. So like I want to have maybe some mugs, maybe a t-shirt. I have my bookmarks that I've made, maybe some notebooks, maybe some like postcard sized prints of characters, that sort of thing.
That's very cool. And we'll talk. It's a side thing. We'll talk. Yeah, that's very cool. I took to your character just because of the absurdity of when I was talking to you, and you're just like, this guy said space trains, but then I don't know if I'm going to get you in trouble, but you had told me that you had actually potentially misheard the instructions from your coworker.
Yeah, apparently he said several years later that he had in fact said space dragons.
Which is a completely different thing.
So different. I'm like, if you had said space dragons, I would have been all over that idea. Instead of me thinking this is like the stupidest thing ever. And
you say that, but you have an 8-book series coming out about just that.
I say that every time. I'm like, it's such a dumb idea, but I love it so much.
So, are you at some point potentially going to pay some royalties for the original idea? I'm just kidding. You don't have to do that,
Well, I gave him book 1 for free as a gift.
Nailed it.
As a thank you. I was like, here you go. You wanted your story.
As long as that individual accepted, I'm sure you're covered legally somehow. Anyway, but I mean, the entire story just comes out of your brain, and I'm really impressed with the quality. You know, your self-publishing is a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
I feel, and get the traction that you really need.
Absolutely.
But people can buy your book on Amazon. Are there any other places? Because when you click the link on your website, it just takes you to Amazon.
Yeah, right now it's just Amazon. For people who are closer in my area of Steinbach, then I have like friends and family who've just bought them directly from me.
Right.
So, but that's it for now.
Right. Sounds good. I was just curious because I don't want to miss any spots. But again,
no, absolutely.
If you go to her website, winterwrites.net, the link is right there. Very easy. It's a very simple website to navigate. You also have a blog on there, which I thought was neat.
Do. Yeah.
And so is that to inform your potential readers? Is that your own creative outlet? Is that...
It's more of a creative outlet. So I have some short stories on there. I have just some like random poetry on there. K1174, my main character, he has his own little blog portion of it as well. Mainly he just, bash talks me. We have a great relationship.
Sounds like it.
So yeah, it's just kind of a bunch of random, trying different writing styles. So different genres as well. A lot of fantasy, but I have some other like dark fantasies, some more horror-ish type short stories as well that are on there. So, yeah.
Right. And it's a very cool website. I'm going to bring it up here so you can actually see it. for those, this is the website. It's very, very simple and
Yeah.
like elegant and easy to use, and it just has that just simplicity to it that,
Yeah.
you know, I've got books, I've got this and this. I like that. I
Mhm.
think too many people, especially who are trying to do their own, what is it called? Their own publishing, their own publicity, their own marketing, all
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. I think too many people try to do too much and try and
Yeah.
make things, and everything's, your website is so busy and it takes away from
Mhm.
what the whole point is, which is
Yeah.
your art,
Yeah, well,
right?
I find especially for like indie authors, it's easy to get caught up in what is all out there on social media, and you're just trying to kind of meet the expectation of as many people as possible. And so you throw as much into it because you're thinking, the more I have, the more people will see, the more people will come, and then you just kind of get caught up in all the busyness of it. And
Right.
I created mine looking at other authors' websites and seeing kind of what I liked, and I like the simple look. So that's kind of how mine came about. I do want to do a little bit of website renovation.
Right.
I've been working on creating a new logo that's a little bit more fantasy-esque, and I think shows kind of who I want to be as an author a bit better. So that's
Right.
going to be coming hopefully soon. But yeah, it'll still stay simple because I do like white, bright, keep it clean, easy to find stuff. I don't want people to be like fighting to find information.
Minimalistic is functional. I get it.
Yeah.
100%. So I really like the artwork. It's simple. And who did your artwork?
On my book covers?
On the books. The book covers is big. Sorry, I should have been more specific.
No, it's fine. My best friend actually did my covers for me. She took a graphic design course, so I got her to help me out as part of her training as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
And this is the DM friend, the one who is dungeon master for. Okay.
Yes.
I try to keep it all
she's
straight.
also an author too, so like we bounce ideas off each other. We write together.
Are you allowed to plug her name, or is she going to be embarrassed?
Absolutely, I can. Her author name is Sharia Kells.
Sharia Kells.
Yeah.
Yep. That I was going to put that on the screen, but I'm not going to even guess at the spelling of that.
Yeah. So she does have one book published right now, Cold Fire by Sharia Kells. It's also available on Amazon. She's working on other stuff as well, doing her graphic designing. She also does chainmail. She's pretty cool.
Sorry, does chainmail? You mean makes chainmail?
She makes chainmail stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
she's pretty badass.
That's pretty dope, actually.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, that's pretty cool. And all right, was not expecting that. That was a nice little curveball at the end. That's very cool. I like that. And you say you bounce ideas off. Is there any chance that you guys are going to do some collaboration work in the future?
Oh, yeah, we definitely write together. We have a book that we've been working on for like 10 years. We want to finish it eventually because we love it so much. She lives in Ontario and I've been traveling around the world, so we haven't been able to sit down and get a lot accomplished in that field. But we're trying to be more deliberate about it this year. So we're trying to meet more often to write.
You're going to have to go spend a little bit of time in Toronto. Check.
Yeah.
And then just have it, like, be done.
Yeah. I mean, if we could get past the all ridiculousness that comes from us being together, most of the time we end up putting our characters in the most random scenarios, and then we don't end up writing because we're having way too much fun laughing at what if situations.
Right.
And then we're like, oh, maybe we should actually have written something today instead of just talked about this random thing that will never happen.
I have a partner like that as well. So we'll get together and we have these ideas of, like, you know, either we're going to do some work together or we're just going to body double and he's going to work on his stuff and I'll work on mine. But inevitably, especially towards the end of our sessions, it just devolves into, oh, the craziest thing happened,
Oh, every
and
time.
filling each other in on all this stuff. Like, I 100% get it. He's probably even
Yeah.
watching right now. It is what it is. But
Yeah.
I totally get it. Sometimes you just get sidetracked. And as a person with
Yeah.
ADHD, I live my entire life that way. So I get it. You also have a Patreon. What kind of stuff can people expect if they go support your Patreon? Uh,
Patreon is something that I'm still working on and trying to figure out what I want to niche on it. And I'm trying to keep it more visual, so I have art on there. I try to keep like snippets of stories and stuff on there. I know Patreon people prefer images rather than stuff to read. So I try to focus on more of my art side on there, but I'm trying to take this year to create some new stuff so that next year I have more stuff to post.
right.
Right now I'm kind of in between projects, so I don't have a lot of material,
That's
unfortunately.
that's what unemployed people say. I'm between opportunities at the moment. During COVID, everyone has said that at least once.
Yeah, yeah,
At least
100%.
once.
I think I've been in between art projects for the last 2 years, though.
Well, and that's the length of
Yeah.
COVID, coincidentally. So, and that's a good question. And
Yeah.
without getting into the politics of, we're just not going there.
Mhm.
Did the pandemic affect your work other than forcing you to come home and change your entire life? So I guess that really starts the answer for you, because you had to come back from Korea and all this.
Yeah,
But did it affect you in your art and your writing? And how did you adjust if it did?
right. I I don't think it really affected me too terribly much, mainly because I had been so busy while I was in Korea, just traveling, hanging out with friends, teaching English, doing all those things, that I didn't really have as much time for writing. So coming back, I finally had time again. So
Right.
my COVID experience is more just I finally had time to actually finish some writing projects. And I mean, it allowed me an opportunity to go to Comic Con. If I had stayed in Korea, obviously I would never have gone. So I guess in a way, it opened new opportunities for me and helped me to kind of refocus myself on writing again.
And that's your main thing, right? Like, that's your
Yeah.
mainstay. Do you? I know a lot of writers who write in their spare time and are quite successful at it, but also
Hmm.
maintain regular 9 to 5 type jobs. Um,
Hmm.
are you one of those people that have a hidden real life?
Well, I have a real life as well, yes. I don't work a full-time job, but I do work a half-time job. So I work 1 week full-time hours and then I get a week off. And so like I switch back and forth.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
And do you get to do that from home, or do you have to go into an office to do
No,
that?
I go into an office. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That just sounds like a big nope for me right now. Having been home, working from home since the start of the pandemic, basically,
Mm,
I don't I don't know if I could do that.
yeah.
I
I mean, it's fair. Obviously, staying home is really nice, but I kind of like having just a different environment to kind of mix things up so that when I come home
right.
on my off weeks, I'm more grateful for it, and then I can, have that headspace of like, oh, I have time now. I can actually do writing. If I'm working a full-time job, then I'm like, but it was a long day, and
Hmm.
I'm tired, and I don't feel like being creative. I'm just gonna veg and watch anime.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to get any judgment from me. I 100%. I given the opportunity, and I work from home, so I have this weird relation because I come to the downstairs into my basement here, and I have my office all set up, and I just do my work, and I truck along.
Yeah.
But when I'm done working, I basically just go upstairs and my whole life is there. And sometimes my life bleeds downstairs. The kids, I have 2 kids, they come downstairs, they're asking me stuff, not during recording sessions such as this. They know, and I try and schedule them so that they're not home. Currently, as we record this, my
Mm-hmm.
kids are at school, and I don't have to worry about them coming in and interrupting and being loud and just kind of that kind of thing. But even when I'm not, they just come down, and there's no separation.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally understand that
Yeah.
point of view of, I get to go to the office. It's a new place. It's a place where your brain is ready to do whatever that work happens to be. I'm assuming
Yeah.
it's probably
And I
not writing
mean, there are
novels.
so many authors who work full time and then write full time as well. And I mean, like, all the more power to them because that's incredible. I I wish I could be that dedicated. I'm working on it.
That's sounds like you really have to have your poop in a group. I just don't. I just don't.
Right. Some
I
days this just doesn't happen.
no. No, I mean with the 2 kids and all this other stuff, I'm lucky I can have that personal time and all the work stuff I have to do, because I work remotely for a company. I work for myself. I have a whole the WPG and all that, and
Yeah.
and I do other stuff on the side, and but I do basically all of it from sitting in this exact same chair, and so it's hard for me to get my brain into, okay, what am I working on now? Because all of my screens have different stuff on them depending on what I'm doing. So
Yeah.
it's chaos, and I imagine that it's probably a lot simpler to just leave, go to a different space, and that's where you're going to do this task, and you come back and
Yeah.
that's dedicated for these
Yeah.
tasks. That'd be a lot easier.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And separation definitely does help. I had everything actually condensed into my bedroom for the longest time because I still live at home. But with some of my siblings having moved out, I decided to take over another space in the house. And now I have a dedicated writing room that's separate. So I can kind of go to a different area and keep everything compartmentalized and organized and really nice like that. So
Have you found that helps you?
so far, I've gotten some stuff done. It's still very, very new. I don't get nearly as cold though because my bedroom is in the basement. So having my office space upstairs with a south-facing window helps for me to not feel like an ice cube while I'm trying to write.
Yeah, I don't. I guess I can see a window way over there, but all the windows in the basement are about this big. So,
Okay, yeah.
uh, but yeah, I've got curtains and stuff set up. I have to because I'm in a studio style environment. I have to keep my
Yeah, for
environment
sure.
very much self-contained, and all of the lights in here are very purposeful.
Mhm.
To because I also run a green screen. A lot of people. It's funny because people don't notice that it's a green screen when I go to my full screen. People don't
Right.
notice, and I just think that that's really cute that people don't know that it's, because I mean, I've like, who's got this on their wall? Who? Just no one.
Right?
This, it's not a real plant. It's just a
It looks
curtain.
cool. It looks really good. But I mean,
Giving
I
away
could
all my
tell that it wasn't real.
Yeah, I'm giving away all my trade secrets, but like that's why I have the lighting very controlled, which is
Mhm.
great when I'm doing that kind of work. But when I'm not, it's a weird space to do officey type work in.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing my remote work, which is project management and things like that,
Mhm.
it's really odd that I'm sitting in basically what is a recording studio, but I'm doing office type work. It's hard to get my head around that.
Yeah.
What is next for you, by the way? After, because first of all, how long do you think it's going to be till we get the entire K1174 series published, complete, out there?
Yeah. My plan and hope is to have books 4 and 5 published in this year. And so 6, 7, and 8, I'm not sure if they'll all be able to come out in 2023, but for sure by 2024, all the books should be out and available.
Right.
After that, it's more fantasy focused books. I'm working on a high fantasy standalone novel right now, which has been really fun. And I can't wait to finish that one and get that one out there. It's like my new love.
Right.
So that'll be the next project. Yeah.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to the next project. And what other types of things do you want to write? Long
Oh,
term, thinking like way down the road.
yeah, way down the road. I do have a fantasy trilogy that it's written, it's completed, but it needs another few rounds of editing before it's good enough to be published anywhere. So that is definitely a project that I want to have completed at some point. With that one, I also have ideas for a prequel trilogy to go along with it. So those ones have not been written. That will be a far future project. And then I have a binder full of ideas of stories, plus like 30 other ones on my computer at all times. And I haven't chosen which ones will be coming up next because I might just start new ideas instead of ones that I already have written down. And we'll see what happens.
It's insane to me the amount of works that you have already completed and set aside, and it feels like there isn't enough hours in the day to have made that a thing. Like
Yeah,
that seems like a lot of work.
sometimes. Yeah, well, and I'm trying to also do more short stories as well, so I have stuff to put on my blog and
Right.
to submit to other publishing places like anthologies and magazines and those kind of things. I'm only just starting to get into doing that. So, yeah, I'm trying to keep up with writing short stories with those, some fairy tale rewrites. That would be more experimenting with other genres. I have a list of stories that I want to write, all of different genres, just to kind of try my hand at them and see what I like, what I don't like, what I'm good at, what I'm just awful at. And yeah, so I just want to experiment a lot.
I try really hard not to find stuff that I'm really terrible at, but I just keep finding it. It's terrible. But people can also find you on Instagram. What type of stuff are you sharing to the Instagram? Why would someone follow you? Because you have it's very visually very interesting.
Yeah, visually, I'm still trying to figure out what my niche is going to be on Instagram, but I've tried to focus on my writing and my art. So there's a lot of book promo, there's character sketches that I've done, there's random other art that I've done, there's selfies, there's pictures probably of my dog, probably gonna be pictures of my plants because I'm starting a collection now. Yeah, my life as an author and all the random things that I do and who I am is mainly what gets put on Instagram. People always tell me that it should only be like one thing and it should be, kind of focused on something specific, but I'm like, I'm too many things. I'm not just one character
Don't put me in
trait,
a box.
So no boxes.
Yeah. I noticed, and I'm gonna geek out a little. I noticed you have a thing on your Instagram. You have a drawing of Witch Queen. Is that Destiny 2 connected?
That was actually from another artist at Comic-Con that I picked up. So like even the ones behind me on my walls, those are artworks that I picked up at Comic-Con from the other artists around me. So that's me supporting other local creators and their stuff because I believe that we should really support each other and help each other out because we're all just trying to find our way in the world, and being creatives is not easy. So.
All right. I was just curious if it was connected to the Destiny 2, the giant expansion. For those that play Destiny on Xbox, PlayStation, whatever, the giant expansion that just came out a couple of weeks ago was called The Witch Queen. So I was just curious if it was inspired by. Anyway, you did not draw it, so never mind.
I didn't. Yeah.
And who's got time to read all these captions? There's so much cool stuff here. Go to her Instagram. It's Winter, or I should say is that the thing? At Winter _author. And that's her Instagram. Lots of really cool stuff there to check out. And if you go to winterwrites.net, the link to her Instagram, Facebook, and I believe Twitter are at the bottom of your site. Yes.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So connect with her on all the socials. Connect with us on all the socials. Connect with everybody on all the socials.
Connect with everybody.
Connect with everybody. Connect with everybody. So, the cosplay you're working on for this Comic-Con. Any hints, or are you just gonna say it's better than the last one?
It's definitely going to be better than the last one. It's going to
I
be
thought the
another
last one was pretty
character
impressive.
also. It's going to be another character also from the books. But yeah, it's not going to be Kate Levinson for this time. I'm going to try to portray a different character this year. One of the girls I met at Comic-Con, she's actually going to be designing and creating the costume for me. She's already agreed, so we're going to work on a little bit of a business partnership there as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, it's gonna be cool.
Have you considered the idea? As a person, I subscribe to Audible. I am always on the go, and there's so many books I wouldn't be able to read if it weren't for Audible and audiobooks. Have you considered creating an audiobook out of your projects, or is that something that you're against?
Oh, definitely not against it. I would love to do audiobook at some point in the future. I'm not sure yet exactly how I want to go about that, whether I want to do the reading myself or if I want to get someone else to do it for me. I don't know what kind of time I have, but I've had so many people asking me if my books are going to become audiobooks because they don't like reading, but they really want to support me in my work. And so, like, it will come eventually. I just don't know when. But
I love your stuff, but I'm not all about that reading. No, I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't like reading, but I like stories. Can you just tell me?
Just tell me the story.
Yeah.
About space dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
although dragons do come out in it, that is something that I promised him I would add since he changed what he said.
Is it a spoiler to tell us which book that happens in?
I will not tell you which book it happens in, but the dragon theme kind of comes throughout at different levels. So you have to read it to find out when it comes out officially.
Fair enough. I will do that. I will read that and figure that out. I'm excited. So there's more of this, and then there's a fantasy trilogy that you've got on the back burner. Do you want to do you want to give a synopsis about that, or do you want to just leave it at that for now?
I think I'll just leave it at that for now because it needs a lot of revamping, and it'll be a while before it comes out.
Fair enough. So you don't want to give anybody a taste of something they can't have. I get it. No teasers.
Exactly.
Got it. Right. gotta plot that out on your tours. Now, have you had anybody at this point reach out to you and be like, I love your books, that you didn't already know, that kind of went out of their way to reach out to you?
Not so much yet. I'm still kind of in the mostly family and friends outreach at the moment.
Right.
I've had obviously now since doing Comic-Con, and I sat in at a craft sale as well with my books. So I've had new people come and purchase from me who I didn't know before, which is really awesome. So now I know at least that there are some people who are not within my friends and family catalog that have copies of my books. So I'm hoping that eventually someday I'll get to hear someone that I don't know reach out and say that they love what I do. I mean, likely I'll probably have someone reach out and say that they really didn't like it because that's what being a creator is. I'm trying to build up my
I gotta go to the internet and tell them how much I didn't like this thing.
There were all these plot holes. I really didn't like it. The characters were dumb and I didn't relate to any of them. Well, I'm sorry.
Don't you be sorry. That's not your job to be sorry. That's their job. They should be sorry and feel sorry.
I'm sorry you couldn't understand.
You all you can do is put it out there. People will either get it or they won't. And I don't know what it is about the internet in particular, but people go to the internet when they're upset and they want to complain about something, but they certainly are less likely to go to the internet and say nice things.
It's true. Mm-hmm. It's
Unless they're already doing, like, if they're reading your book on an EPUB or whatever, because you have a Kindle edition.
Yeah.
So by the way, you can get the Kindle edition, and it's like $3 or $4. Like, it's completely affordable. Go buy it. Go buy it. Buy the hardcover. Buy the hardcover. And you only have the paperbacks at the moment, right?
Paperback, yeah.
Yeah.
I would
Do you
like
plan
to
on doing any
eventually
hardcover
have
stuff?
all
Yeah.
8 of them once they're completed in like a standalone hardcover anthology with all 8 of them in there. But that's
That'd be
once
sweet.
the whole series is completed.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
So, I want to thank you for joining us here. This was great. I got to know you, and our audience got to know you a little bit. Go check out these books. I'm telling you, local people doing really cool stuff deserve to be supported. They just do.
Absolutely.
Winterwrites.net, and when we say write, like Winter Writes, WRITES. Okay?
Yeah.
Very simple. Winterwrites.net. Go there. All the info about those books and her blog and links to her Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of it is there. So just go there, connect with her. Awesome stuff from Josephine Winter, author, right here. I'm going to say Winnipeg, even though Steinbach it's close enough.
Yeah.
Close enough. Let's call it Winnipeg-ish.
Yeah.
It's fine. You were at Winnipeg Comic Con. That's Winnipeg enough for me. So I want to remind everyone, you can follow us on all those social medias, WPG Magazine, the WPG Magazine on all of them, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all that. You can also get in touch with us through the WPG talk line, 431-800-4555. You can call or text, leave us a voicemail or a text message. You can also reach us by email if that's your jam, podcasts@thewpg.ca. So again, thank you so much for being here. And I really
Thanks for having
hope
me.
that, well, it was our pleasure. And I really hope the best in the future. Looking for those other 5 of your 8 books. Then we have to look for the 3, what's the word? Fantasy is the word. I don't know why that escaped my brain for a second. But the 3 fantasy books in her trilogy, and then onward and upward from there. Follow this lady, Josephine Winter, winterwrites.net. Thanks.
Thank you.
See you next time on the Winterpeg Report.